All right, you guys, what is going on? This your boy Town Biz. All right, so decided to do a video, talk about the aftermath of this Saturday, and this video is going to be a little controversial, which I don't think is controversial. I just think that it's the truth. It's just one of these videos where somebody got to say it. It might as well be me, because that's the difference between me and a lot of these other dudes on here. While other people dance around subject matter, a lot of and a lot of people just want to get the unmitigated truth, the absolute truth. So it looks as if we're not gonna get Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis next. It looked like this is going to continue to be a carousel, a marathon of, chasing each other or not chasing each other. And it has to be about timing and all this kind of stuff. We was made to believe that this fight would be next. This was a fight that people was looking forward to, and now we're not going to get it. And I'm going to have to be completely honest, because I have to call cap on some things that Oscar said, and this is the honest to God truth. For Oscar to sit up there and say that Virgil Ortiz Jr. is the A side in a fight with Boots, that is just cap. That's cap. I just came from that fight. I was there, and keep in mind, this is Virgil Ortiz regional area. He is from that area, and he couldn't even get 10,000 people up in that arena. So Virgil doesn't have a big following. So for him to say that he's the A side, and because he beat Lubin, that elevates him to the A side, no. Not going for that, and not trying to hear it. And then people wonder why boxing is in the state that it's in. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna have to address people like hating on Carissa Shields' contract and all that kind of stuff, because now you just got people that's just making up stuff, which they do anyway, people that don't even cover boxing. But I'll address that later on. So I went there in hopes that we was gonna get an announcement that they had a date set and when this is gonna happen. So now you got to hear this stuff about, well, and it just sounds like they don't want the fight, and it's just starting to look like they don't want the fight. And I'm gonna tell you something that I suspect. I think that a lot of people are shaking in boxing because they saw what Terrence Crawford did to Canelo. When they saw Terrence Crawford basically move up 3 weight classes with no tune-up at 160 or 168 and basically go in there and pretty much dominate Canelo. And I think now that they're shook. And I think that they scared that Jaron is going to do a number on Virgil Ortiz. And I just think that they think his style is all wrong for Virgil Ortiz. And Virgil Ortiz, it's a good fight. I think he got a puncher's chance, but I would favor Boots in the fight. But anything could happen. Anything could happen. And for people that's gonna sit up here and say, oh well, they had a chance, after a while that gets stale. After a while, you can't keep using that excuse. I think that they're really fearful of another Terrence Crawford and Canelo, and it could be worse. Could be worse. At the end of the day, it's almost looking like a modern day Black Murderers Row, because they saw what Terrence Crawford did to Canelo, and now a lot of these people are shook, and particularly these Hispanics, a lot of these Mexicans are shook, and they're worried about what could happen. Starting to see the emergence and the rise of black fighters again. Keep in mind, many people believe that Canelo was an overwhelming favorite. Many people believe that Bud wasn't even gonna last like eight rounds in that fight, that he was gonna be brutally knocked out. And then it was funny, the only thing I was worried about was Terrence Crawford being able to take Canelo's punches at that weight class. But as we got closer to the fight and I started to really evaluate Canelo, and I was thinking to myself, well, damn, Canelo hasn't had an actual stoppage in a while. Yeah, he's dropped people, but he hasn't had an actual stoppage in a while. So I started to think, if Terrence Crawford fights smart, he could win this fight. I never made a prediction, but as we started to get closer to the fight, I started to believe more and more in Terrence Crawford that he was going to pull this off. And then actually watching the fight, I knew by the 5th round that Terrence Crawford was going to win this fight. And Terrence Crawford pretty much won the fight going away, despite what the judges have you believing. As you watch that fight more and more, like I said, you're being nice. You're being nice by giving Canelo 3 rounds. Might be best case scenario after rewatching it, it might be 10-2 in favor of Terrence Crawford. Or even worse, might be 10-2 even, which still Terrence Crawford wins by wide margin. So I just think some people just are afraid of now the black and brown matchup now. Because for the most part, if you look at history, if you look up the matchup between black and brown, the black fighters have came out on top. Yeah, people gonna get mad. People gonna come on here and start talking shit, but that's fine. I just gotta say this. This just happens far too often. Way too much for my liking. Now they talking about fighting in Cowboy Stadium. When I heard Oscar say that, I was like, Oscar, Jerry Jones ain't gonna let Virgil Ortiz fight in Cowboy Stadium. Not by himself. And then my thing is, why would you want to fight? My thing is, why are you even talking about Errol Spence? And Errol Spence haven't had a fight in 2 years, going on 3 years. That doesn't even remotely make any kind of sense. We haven't seen Errol Spence in a boxing ring in over 2 years. So now you want Errol Spence to directly go into a fight with Virgil Ortiz after suffering a domination loss by Terrence Crawford, knocked down 3 times in that fight, was hurt very badly. So that's what you're saying. I mean, Lubin was a decent win, but to sit up there and say that it catapults you to the top guy at 154, and then you're saying that Virgil, they're also saying that Virgil may be the mandatory for Fundora. We would have to see. And Fundora is another guy that doesn't have any drawing power. So That's why when I hear these fighters and some of these people sitting up saying that Mexicans is the heart and soul of boxing, that is a complete fucking lie. Because if that's the case, Fundora, who is Mexican, why can't he sell any tickets? And also, I have to bring this up. It's funny how people call Devin Haney a weight bully or other black fighters, because once again, a lot of times they put that on black fighters. They always come with some label to try to diminish or try to, attack the credibility of a black fighter. And for people that's gonna come on here and say, hey, why you raise baiting and why you make because I want to. I don't have to explain myself to anybody. You don't like what I have to say, then don't come on here. So when I hear people say that, that's an absolute lie. And I've been seeing that for the longest as a guy that actually covered boxing. Because if that's the case, then once again, David Benavidez doesn't pack the house when he fights. He's done some okay numbers, but he hasn't filled the arena to capacity. But these are the same people that'll say Terrence Crawford doesn't have any drawing power, he doesn't have any popularity and all this kind of stuff. But Terrence Crawford was fighting in Madison Square Garden. They brought Terrence Crawford to Madison Square Garden a few times to fight. And you know why? Because he sells tickets. They put Teofimo Lopez, who's from the New York area, against Sandor Martin, and he couldn't even get, and Top Rank lost money on that fight. He didn't even sell, I think, 8,000 tickets. So a lot of people be sitting up here just faking the funk, and they just be lying. And my thing is, if you black and you have a problem with me talking about race and all that kind of stuff, then don't follow my channel neither. Why are you worried about what I'm talking about? How does it affect you? We already know that boxing is race oriented. We already know. Even Tim Bradley didn't start to just tell the truth about it. And when I heard Jay Leon Lai say that boxing has never been predicated on race, I don't even see how he can sit up there with a straight face and tell that lie. But when Abel Sanchez made his comments about black fighters don't sell, then of course people tried to pull you guys are too emotional. Like, man, get out of here. What it come down to, people want to insult black men and they think we not supposed to respond. Whether it be women from our own community calling us sassy and all that kind of stupid shit, to where people say we're being over emotional. They expect us to just take it lying down, don't say nothing. They I think it's appalling when you got people that are not black that try to have a slave master mentality towards us, that think that we're not supposed to retaliate, that we're not supposed to respond. We just supposed to sit up there and just take disrespect. But like I say, everybody else is allowed to defend themselves except the black man. And then you have a lot of fighters, and particularly black fighters, co-signing this stuff. Like I said, this stuff about that Mexicans just packed the house, that's a complete fucking lie. You talking to a dude that they covered over 30-something fights. Maybe 30-something fights. And I've been doing this for a while now. But they only try to use drawing power when it comes to measuring a black fighter's work. If you look at the history of boxing, black fighters are involved in the biggest gates or most historical fights ever. whether it's against another black or against somebody that isn't black. There is no fight where you have a Mexican versus Mexican did record-breaking pay-per-view numbers. Stop. So I'm just saying, so to say that blacks don't have drawing power or we can't sell, that's an absolute lie. Pay-per-view was built off the back of black fighters. Ali and Frazier, one, set the tone for what would become pay-per-view. So can we please stop it? Can we please stop with the lies? Can we please stop with the game plan? Can we please stop with the trying to insult people's intelligence? Because you can't insult my intelligence because, like I said, I've been doing this far too long. Like I said, it's funny. They always try to talk about, our drawing power, but then once again, you have Teofimo Lopez, who can't sell out, who can't sell out a Starbucks parking lot. Lomachenko, for the most part, he had to fight in theaters. The only time Lomachenko fought in big arenas, for the most part, is when he fought people like Devin Haney. Lomachenko didn't have no drawing power. He didn't have a big fan base. A lot of times he was fighting at the theater at Madison Square Garden. When he fought at the Staples Center, the whole top section was closed because he didn't sell no tickets, but that never get brought up. But they love to keep track of our so-called numbers. And at the end of the day, somebody in media got to start back to saying this stuff. So might as well be me. I was there. And Golden Boy didn't even announce the attendance for the fight. And it was people that saw it on pay-per-view said that they saw it was a lot of empty seats. I think the Dickies Arena at capacity can hold around maybe it's a nice arena. And I can see that it's very spacious. If they decided to renovate it, they could easily easily add 2,000 or 3,000 more seats. So I'm just saying, I was there. Because for the most part, Boots has done decent numbers fighting at home. But to say now it's a A-side, B-side thing, when I think that, I think, me, myself, best case scenario, they should go 50. They should go 50-50. So now it appears that they're going to stall this fight out. And I wouldn't be surprised. If Boots doesn't get that fight at 154. I wouldn't be surprised if Virgil Ortiz fights one more fight or two at 154 and then he moves up to 160, stating that he can't make 154, and then it's gonna be here we go again. Now, if he fights Fundora, okay, fine. If he fights Fundora, fine, cool. Now, they got a fight coming up. Matchroom got a card coming up in Stockton. I should have tried to catch Eddie Hearn then. So, because I'm pretty sure Eddie will have something to say. If that's the case, I'm going to ask Eddie Hearn, what's it going to take to just make Boots versus Charlo? And I'm going to say this much. Charlo said that he wanted to fight. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yes, Charlo is a former undisputed champion. I'm gonna say this once again. Charlo doesn't have any drawing power. When he fought in a rematch for undisputed, and the thing is with Charlo, you got to say this, and this is the honest to God truth. His stock declined dramatically based off his performance versus Canelo. Based off the fact that Bud went up 3 weight classes and mollywopped Canelo. Charlo has no drawn power whatsoever. He doesn't have any, for real. He doesn't have any negotiating power. If I'm Charlo, he talking about be humble and all this. This is what he was telling Terrence Crawford. Well, you got to be humble now with your funny style acting ass. Like I said, Charlo is just unlikable. He's unlikable. And a lot of these fighters, like I say, they need to act, you know what I'm saying? They need to act better towards the media because we keeping them and we keeping boxing afloat. Y'all sitting up talking all this stuff about Dana White and you know, and what he plans on doing. Well, y'all part of the problem. And y'all can't be getting feelings and getting, you know, emotionally, you know, unhinged because somebody say something that you don't like. Charlo has no negotiation power whatsoever. So let's see if he gonna follow his own advice. Let's see if he gonna follow his own. Let's see if he gonna follow his own advice. If they can't get that fight, if they can't get the Virgil Ortiz fight, which look like that's not gonna happen, then yeah, maybe they should set their sights on Charlo. I'll say this much: Charlo is far more fresher than Arison Lubin. Keep in mind, Arison Lubin, you got to keep it 100. Arison Lubin was stopped in the first round by Charlo. I mean, he got slept. He was stopped in, and I like Arison Lubin. He was stopped in the first round, so that took a lot out of him. That probably took like 30 to 40% out of him. Dan Fondura took another 35%. He just was never really the same after those 2 fights. Now he bounced back and won a couple of fights, but you have to wonder now where he is against the so-called elites. And Dan Charlo, you have to wonder where he is because based off that performance he showed and displayed against Canelo, he didn't even try. You know? He got dropped and he was in survivor mode pretty much for the rest of the fight. So he want to say that he's still out there and he a top guy. Yeah, go fight Boots. And for people that's going to say, oh, well, you know, he haven't fought in a while and all this kind of stuff. Well, he didn't get brutally knocked out like Errol Spence did. He got dropped and then he was pretty much in survivor mode. Errol Spence got beat the fuck up by Terrence Crawford. We all saw it. So before you say come with that, there's your answer. There's the difference. I'm always ready. So next month when Matchroom comes to Stockton, by the way, tickets are available for the Diego Pacheco fight is going down in Stockton. Tickets are as low as $49. So I'm going to be at that fight. I'm going to go cover that fight because that's in my regional area. You know, Stockton is like 50-minute drive away from Oakland, you know. So it's not extremely close, but it's not extremely far. So I just think that they gonna start. I just think they gonna start negotiate with another fighter. If they mandatory Fundora, then that needs to be the next fight. But when I heard them say that they want to fight Spence at Cowboy Stadium, Cowboy Stadium, and he gonna call Jerry Jones. Yeah, you headline Virgil Ortiz at Cowboy Stadium, and when 1,000 people show up, I promise you, Jerry Jones gonna publicly call out and clown that. One thing about Jerry Jones wants you to sell tickets. Because at the end of the day, he's loaning out his stadium. He want to make some money too. So at least Errol Spence could get 30,000 people in there. He didn't sell out against Ugas, but he was able to get 30,000 people up in there. Even though I heard they gave a lot of tickets away, that they gave like almost 6,000 to 7,000 tickets away. I still think that Jerry Jones turned somewhat of a profit and made some money. He probably charged them a site fee, probably plus a little percentage off the gate, and then the concession, and then the parking. So yeah, when I heard Oscar say that, I'm like, Oscar, you gonna put Virgil Ortiz at Cowboy Stadium? And see, you put him in a venue like Cowboy Stadium. I know there are certain camera angles that the camera crew is instructed to do. To keep you from seeing how many people actually showed up. It's certain angles that they'll show to make it look like it's more people there than what really is there. And once again, I didn't get an email confirming the attendance. One thing about Top Rank that I used to give them credit for, whether they thought it was good or bad, they would always let you know how many people actually came to the fight. So I just think this could be a long waited out process to get this fight made. A lot of people already told me saying, I don't think this fight gonna happen for a while, or it may not happen at all. But once again, I know people gonna say, well, Ennis said he needed a 2-up fight. Well, this is supposed to have been worked out. But I knew something was strange when they was telling Ennis, don't come to the fight. He came anyway. But I'm just like, wow, nobody expected them to just sit up there in the press conference, just totally dismiss the fight like they did. Because that's basically what they did. They totally just waved off this fight and just dismissed it as they had everybody believing that this fight was definitely going to happen next. And like I said before, I think right now they just cannot afford to have another massacre or another letdown like they did with Canelo and Terrence Crawford. They thought that Terrence Crawford was a lick. They thought he was easy pickings. They thought this was a lick for Canelo. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if in fact they go into a rematch, Terrence Crawford is gonna knock Canelo out. So there's nothing Canelo gonna do that's gonna better his chances in a rematch. If he sit up there and try to fight Terrence Crawford like in 2027 when Terrence Crawford is about to turn 40, because he think Terrence Crawford is aged to the point he might do something with him now. But I think Terrence Crawford and Canelo should just be a done deal. It wouldn't even be nothing that Canelo could do to restore himself. And I know people talking about Canelo had a bomb shoulder and all this. Terrence Crawford had surgery. Like I said, it's always an excuse when the on behalf of the black fighter, then all of a sudden there are no excuses. He signed the contract, he lost. So that's the thing. I'm gonna say this again. Y'all not gonna dictate what I say on my channel. We already know what it is. We already know what the deal is. We already know what type of time y'all on. And it's called change the narrative time, because that's what y'all like to do. So we don't want to hear that. Canelo ain't gonna do no better in a rematch versus Terrence Crawford. He gonna get his ass beat even worse. He gonna get stopped. He gonna get stopped in a rematch. And I'm gonna tell you right now, just like he didn't want to fight Bibble in a rematch. He tells Bibble, "Oh, I'll fight Bibble again, but he got to come down to 168." And did what Bibble said. All right, I'll do it. Then he just decided to go another direction, because he would have got his ass. He would have got his ass stopped in a rematch by Bibble. Bibble could listen. What showed me that Canelo could be stopped was the Bibble fight. Bibble, listen. Bibble showed Canelo too much respect. Had Bibble, like I said, had Bibble really turned it up a notch, he could have stopped Canelo. Y'all really didn't watch that fight with Terrence Crawford as well. Canelo, when he got hit, Canelo almost quit in that fight. Canelo looked like he wanted to quit in that fight, but he knew he couldn't quit in that fight. That would have been it for him. All that's been going on is the fans and some people in boxing scrambling to try to figure out, because it was truly a what just happened moment. It was truly a what just happened. It was, people couldn't believe what just happened when they saw what Bud did to Canelo. So now I think now it's hesitation, and I think now people gonna start dismissing these black and brown fights. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you look at the history of boxing. Mexican versus Mexican fights have done decent, depending on who it is, but they're not like what you would call the pedestal of, the most lucrative gates and the most highly watched. They've done decent numbers, but let's stop pretending that it's the end all be all. Because like I said, you can't tell. That's the thing. And I'm gonna say this to y'all: stop listening to these dudes. Yeah, just because they got 200,000 subscribers, stop listening to dudes that don't go to fights, that don't cover fights. Yeah, they may put together their fight videos very well with the special effects and all that kind of stuff, the nice backgrounds, but don't listen to dudes that's not actually going to fights. I'm a credentialed media member. I cover fights. I go to fights. I was there. Go look on my channel. I was there. There wasn't that many people there at that fight. So for them to try to claim the A-side thing with Oscar, Oscar got me scratching my head, and Oscar's being disingenuous. And you just got to say this. He's being disingenuous. I just think that they don't believe in their hearts that Virgil can win that fight. Remember, you guys, boxing is a business as well.